This is a walkthrough for the Ladibug 2.0 software. Whether you have one of the larger DC265 models or a smaller DC120, the software for the Ladibug will be the same. If you have a larger model, it needs to be turned on before it can be used, which can be done right here. If it doesn't turn on with this button, there is a physical button on the base of the document camera. The smaller models will automatically turn on when you open the Ladibug software. There are two windows in the Ladibug software. One is the display window, which will show you what is in front of the document camera. The other is the Ladibug window, which allows you to adjust the camera and annotate in the display window. Let's go over the buttons available in the Ladibug window. The first allows you to turn on and off live images. If you turn it off, it will stop taking a live feed from the document camera, and if you turn it back on, it will resume displaying a live feed in the display window. The second button is an auto tune, and when pressed will attempt to automatically adjust the camera settings to give you the best quality image it can provide. The third button turns the lamp on the document camera on and off. The fourth is the power button. This is useful if you have one of the larger model Ladybugs, since it will allow you to turn the camera on without having to do it physically at the base. If you have a smaller model DC120 like I do, then the button will be grayed out. The first button on the next row is the zoom button. When pressed, it will pop up a slider that allows you to zoom in and out on the image. The zoom will always be aimed at the center of the image. Skipping over the Ladibug, the next button is the brightness button. Like the zoom button, pressing this will pop up a slider which allows you to raise and lower the brightness of the image. The last button on this row is the options button. When pressed, it will bring up a short list of options on what language you wish to use, what sort of video compression you would like any recordings to use, an audio source selector if you plan to include audio in your recordings, and the option to switch between normal and live mode. Live mode is for low-end computers that aren't capable of handling normal mode, which shouldn't be an issue for you. On the third row, the first button is the annotations button. This button will pull up a third window that allows you to draw and write on the image in the display window. In the annotations window, there is a selection of buttons that change the mouse function. These will allow you to move and rotate stuff you've entered, place dots with a click, type in text, place lines, circles, and squares, free draw, erase, wipe the whole page of annotations, undo, redo, and delete. The color panel lets you choose which color your annotations appear in. The line width lets you change how thick the line of your shapes and drawings are. The circles with the numbers in them denote how see-through your annotations will be. Finally, at the bottom, you can select which font you want to use and how large you want your text to be when using the text button. Back on the Ladibug options window, the freeze button will pause the live video on whatever you have under the camera at the time. This will allow you to change things around that are under the camera, and then you can press the freeze button again to restart showing live video. The next button will bring up a settings menu for the camera. In this window, you can automatically and manually adjust the focus, turn on or off auto exposure and white balance, tell the camera whether you're looking at photos or text, and rotate the camera if the image in the display window is upside down or mirrored incorrectly. You can also change the resolution of an image in the display window, the frequency, and note down the version number of the firmware on the document camera. The fourth button on this row is a mask mode, which will black out the bottom 75% of the screen in the display window. On the display window in the top right corner, two buttons will appear. The arrow pointing down allows you to set the opacity of the black section of the screen, and the red X will turn off the mask mode. You can also turn off the mask mode in the Ladibug window by pressing the mask mode button again. The last row is mostly devoted to different capture methods. The first button will take a screenshot and save it in the Documents/Ladibug 2.0 folder. The file name will be the date and time the screenshot was taken. Next to the screenshot button is the record button. When pressed, it will bring up a small window with a record button and a stop button. If you press the red record button, the camera will load into record mode. Once it's done loading, it will begin recording. Press stop when you are done recording and the camera will go back into document camera mode. The video file will be saved in Documents/Ladibug 2.0. The third button on the bottom row is for time-lapse capture. The time-lapse will take pictures at an interval that you can set. When the button is pressed, a window will pop up with settings for the time capture you want to perform. You can set the prefix you want on the file names of the pictures, when you want the capture to start, the interval between pictures, and how long you want the capture to last. When you've got the settings you want, press OK, and it will pull up a small window labeled Timelapse that tells you how far along you are in your time capture and how long you have until it finishes. Once the capture is finished, you can find the pictures in Documents/Ladibug 2.0. The final button on the Ladibug window is a spotlight mode, which blacks out all of the display screen except for a center circle. Press it once to engage it and press it again to turn it off. Just like with mask mode, there will be two buttons on the display window when spotlight mode is engaged. The arrow pointing down allows you to change the opacity, and the red X allows you to turn it off from the display window. If you have any questions or need more training on the Ladibug, contact the Media Services Department at extension 8445, and we can set up a time to go over the Ladibug further.